Astrology is a very fun subject to learn, but sometimes it can get very overwhelming. These tutorials are designed to help you learn astrology like a pro. Alright, so now that we have a basic understanding of what a chart is, it's now time to get oriented. Remember in the last episode how I said that astrology was geocentric? Well, there's one other thing I want to add to this definition. Astrology is geocentric as well as being based on the daily and yearly motions of our sun. Now don't freak out, I'm going to explain exactly what this means. In our previous lesson, we talked about how a natal chart is simply a picture of the night sky at a specific moment in time. So when you heard that, some of you probably thought, well, Kyle, I was born at nighttime, and at nighttime, you can't see the sun in the sky. Thankfully, astrology does accommodate this by giving us a complete 360-degree view of the Earth. I'm now going to explain how this works. Here we have a simplified version of the natal chart. As you can see, we have two very prominent lines. For the time being, we can just call them the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis is actually the horizon. This means that the top half of the natal chart is the sky that you can actually physically see. And the bottom half is the other side of the world, or the part of the sky that we can't see. Remember in elementary school how they told you that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west? It's now time to put that to practice. Alright, so remember this x-axis is the horizon. This is the east. This is where the sun rises in the morning. This is west. This is where the sun sets at night. This is a little confusing because the compass that we know and love is actually flipped around in astrology 180 degrees. What was north is now south. What was east is now west. So now let's look back at our natal chart and follow the daily motions of the sun. For the sake of the example, let's say that for today, the sunrise is at 7 a.m. and the sunset is at 7 p.m. And this little orange circle is the sun. I hope you all are getting excited because you are now becoming astrologers. There's one more thing I need to mention before we move on. We know that this is east and this is where the sun rises, but in astrology, we don't call it east. In fact, it has a very special name. Actually, all four cardinal points of this x and y axis have very important names and meanings. Today, we're just going to go over the names. Sunrise, or the east cardinal point of the compass, is called the ascendant, or ASC for short. The southern cardinal point of the compass, or the highest part of the day sky, is called the midheaven, or medium coeli in Latin, or for short, we abbreviate it as the MC. The western cardinal point of the compass, or sunset, is also called the descendant, or DC for short. Finally, the northern cardinal point of the compass is called the Imum Coeli, which is Latin for the bottom of the sky. We abbreviate it as the IC. So now you know what it means when I say that astrology is geocentric. With the natal chart, we just observed the sun going around the Earth. Even though we know this isn't what really happens in real life, From the perspective of the Earth, it looks like the Sun is revolving around the Earth. But what's actually happening in real life is that the Earth is rotating around its axis of rotation. This creates the day. Now, here's the crazy part. This axis of rotation actually wobbles back and forth. This wobble is responsible for two things. It's responsible for the seasons, and it's responsible for the time of daylight. Have you ever wondered how in the summer the days are really long, but in the winter the days are really short? Or have you ever wondered how when you live in a place that is really close to the equator, how the days don't really change at all during the seasons? I'm about to explain how that is. I'm going to explain what happens astrologically in addition to what happens astronomically. This wobble is always occurring, but there are 4 distinct moments that we really pay attention to. The first time is in the spring, where the rotational axis is perpendicular to the equator. See in this picture how the North and South Pole are perpendicular to the equator? The next time is in the summer, where the rotational axis has wobbled to its most extreme point closest to the Sun. See in this picture how much sun the Earth gets? This explains how in the summertime the days are longer. In the fall, the North and South Pole wobble back perpendicular to the equator. And finally, in the wintertime, we see the Earth's wobble to its most extreme furthest away from the Sun. This explains how the days are shorter during the wintertime. This is a map of the constellations that are in the sky. So right now, we are geocentric. We are observing the solar system from the Earth's perspective. Every single constellation has a great mythology behind it, and if you would like to know more, there's a link in the description below. Even though we have 88 constellations, there are 12 very specific constellations that the Sun travels through the year. We call them the zodiac, but when we talk about them in reference to the yearly travel of the Sun, it's called the ecliptic. Alright, it's now time to put it all together. Here we go. In March, we have the spring equinox. The way I remember it is that the North and South Pole are perpendicular to the equator. That's why we call it the equinox. So that's what happens astronomically. Let's see what happens astrologically. At this time during the spring equinox, the Sun is in Aries. This is what it looks like on the ecliptic. This is what it looks like on the zodiac. In June, we have the summer solstice. A way to remember this is that at this time we are highly influenced by the Sun's rays. Solstice. This is what happens astronomically. On the ecliptic, the Sun has reached Cancer. This is what it looks like on the zodiac. In September, we have the fall equinox. At this time, the North and South Pole are perpendicular to the equator. This is what happens astronomically. On the ecliptic, the Sun has reached Libra. This is what it looks like on the zodiac. Have you noticed a pattern? I've noticed that every time we change the season, the sign that the Sun hits also hits a cardinal point on the compass. This is not a coincidence. And finally, in December, we have the winter solstice. This is when the rotational axis is furthest away from the Sun. This is what it looks like on the ecliptic. We have reached Capricorn. This is what it looks like on the zodiac. And just like that, we have witnessed the yearly cycle. Whew, that was one very intense lesson. Let's go over what we learned today. Astrology is geocentric as well as being based on the yearly and daily motions of the Sun. This is the natal chart, and this line is the horizon. This is where the Sun rises in the morning on the east, and this is where the Sun sets at nighttime, the west. And throughout the day, the Sun travels completely around the natal chart. The seasons are due to a constant wobble of the rotational axis. This wobble has 4 distinct moments that we pay close attention to, namely the 4 seasons. During the year, the Sun travels throughout the zodiac. We call it the ecliptic. That concludes Lesson 2. I hope you found this lesson informative and fun. If you'd like any more information, plus all those cool links about the constellations, it's all on the description below. If you have any questions or comments about future lessons, please contact me.